All right, everyone. I am super excited to introduce our second speaker of the night. So our second speaker of the night is Ilya Brotzky, and his three fun facts are that he lived in 10 different countries, he speaks 3.5 languages, not 10, and he has never owned a car. Ilya, come on up here and share your fuck up.
Thank you, Marsha. Thanks everyone for being here today, and thanks, Marsha, for the invite. I usually am pretty good in front of crowds. I've done a lot of public speaking, but I'm definitely really nervous for this, so just heads up on that. Cool. So, who I am and who we are. Just very quickly, VanHack exists to make moments like this happen. This is a software engineer who's relocating to Europe. We helped relocate to Europe. Andre, we've helped almost 700 people relocate, and we bring senior tech talent to different countries, Canada and different parts of the world. We've been doing this for about 4 years, have 35 employees, work with about 300 customers. It's been a great ride, but definitely a lot of big lessons learned along the way, and I'm excited to be sharing one of the biggest ones with you guys tonight. So how did it all start? Actually, it's a very personal business for me. I'm an immigrant myself, moved from Soviet Union to Israel when I was 2, and then to Vancouver when I was 5, and grew up in Canada. And then I went to school in the US, graduated, and I was looking to relocate actually after university. I actually got 3 job offers, one in India, one in Brazil, and one in China. Guess where I went? Any guesses? Brazil. So this is me. My first job it was a dream job, not actually at the office, but I worked at a mining company. Where I was, doing some interesting things, but really what I fell in love with was the culture of the country, and I definitely felt in 2010 a lot of positivity and energy happening there. But fortunately or unfortunately, I got sent to Toronto after 8 months, back to the cold here, and I was really getting a little bit bored at work, trying to look for things to do outside of work, and actually going to events like this and meetups, and ended up going to this group called JCI, if anyone's ever heard of it. And there I met this guy, this advisor, who was actually, he was a financial advisor, and became like a really close friend and mentor, and someone I kind of looked up to and trusted a lot. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, pay attention to this part, foreshadowing. It's just met a lot of people, but this is what kind of main thing that happened in Toronto. But as kind of you would expect, my love for Brazil and what was going on in the country there actually led me to quit my job and move to Rio. So I actually gave up this really well-paying job and went to volunteer at a slum in Rio as a kind of a business development salesperson for a nonprofit, which led me then to work for a startup accelerator, where I started meeting a lot of software engineers, a lot of technical professionals who were asking me, for like just working with them, and I'll get to the point, but and that really was where the seeds of VanHack was born. And one of the side projects I ended up doing when I was there was actually launching a course, an online course called Brazil Career Blueprint, which was a way to help international people move to Brazil. So this whole idea of relocating was something that I've been working on for a long time. This was in 2013. And actually, when I was doing this, all my Brazilian friends actually were telling me I was doing it all wrong. I was doing this all backwards. I should be helping Brazilians relocate to Canada. So I realized, okay, maybe there's something there. And really long story short, I ended up fucking up a lot and getting fired from my startup, and anyway, I won't get into the details, but I ended up moving back home, back to Vancouver. I was actually broke, living with my parents, with my girlfriend, and then wife. And I was kind of searching for a job and looking for things to do, and sharing on social media that, hey, like, I had moved back to Vancouver, and this is actually an actual picture I posted, and this idea kind of hold of me, and people like this senior Java developer from Brazil, Luis, commented on my post saying, one day I'll arrive here. It's a beautiful picture of False Creek. So really, the business started growing, and I started actually having some success. We're having so much success, actually, that we ended up going to Startup Chile. We did Techstars. We did another program in Luxembourg. We did a bunch of startup accelerator programs, and we started growing. So this is kind of where things started going wrong. So we had 3 people, then we started to grow to 10, and then we're starting to look for more salespeople. And I posted on LinkedIn, hey, I'm looking for some more sales support. Things are going well in the company. And lo and behold, who gets in touch with me is this financial analyst and financial advisor from Toronto. So he sends me a message on LinkedIn, slides into the DMs and says, hey, I just sold my my company, you know, I'm looking for my next gig, something to stick myself into, and I thought, amazing. This guy who I looked up to for so long, someone who really like, you know, I knew was a good salesperson, wants to join my team. Oh my God, I'm gonna hire him right on the spot. So I did, and he came on as kind of an advisor first, then became a full-time person, and no reference checks, no background, just kind of like, hey, you know, someone I've kind of met before, I trust, let's have this person join the team. So a lot of things happened. You know, for the first little while, everything was going really well, but then slowly, like a little, you know that phrase of a boiling frog. You know, you put in the water and you put the water up. You know, you don't feel it, right? So that's kind of what happened here. So at first it was, let's hire some people that you know I know to help with some operational tasks. So we ended up hiring 3 people that were kind of his friends or people he knew without any background checks on them as well. One of the people, I know it sounds crazy, right? It sounds crazy. I know. Trust me, it gets much worse. But but when you're in it, right? You're in the problem. You don't see that. Like you're just stuck in your own view, and you're thinking things are going forward. You're running along, and you think the person's trying to help you, right? Yeah, like another thing is I gave him access to my email account actually, which again sounds crazy, but it was because of like we were doing email marketing, and he was like emailing people as if he was me to get leads, and you know I kind of didn't think about it for a while, but then I realized, well, maybe I shouldn't do that, and so there was that. Actually, one of the 3 people that we ended up bringing on ended up being his wife, and before we knew that, we actually let her go. It was this really awkward situation, and then and then another thing that happened is he actually ended up asking for like a commission in advance, which is known as a draw. So you kind of pay a salesperson commission up front with a kind of thinking that they'll make it up and then their commission will cover that payment. So this all kind of came to a head where we were living in Berlin at the time. I almost got thrown in this canal by my co-founder, who was here, my co-founder, and we were talking about things, and I kind of told her, hey, like, you know, I'm paying the salary in advance to this person, and she just looked at me like, she couldn't believe it, and we got into a big fight, and yeah, like I kind of opened my eyes a little bit to what happened, and I told him, hey, listen, like we're not gonna do this anymore, and he told me like, okay, I'm gonna pay you back on this date, right? It's like we had it advanced, and also, I didn't have a contract signed with him, another thing. Yeah. I know. So a lot of lessons. But really, October 1st came and went. I actually had sent him, I paid for his flight to come to a conference here in Toronto to do sales in Toronto. And then the days, it was like October 15th or 20th. And I was like, hey, like, are you going to pay me back today? No, I'm moving, or some other excuse. Are you gonna pay me back the next day? No. And then the 3rd day, I was finally like, you know what? I can't trust you anymore. Unfortunately, I have to let you go. And it was kind of like a tough conversation, and I remember getting the courage up to like, let's go. It's never easy firing people. But he seemed to take it okay, and it was fine. I was like, okay, interesting. So when are you gonna pay me back? Like, you know, you owe us like a lot of money, thousands of dollars, and yeah, that kind of never happened. But the crazy part was that after letting him go, I started going through his email account, his VanHack email account, not his personal one, but like his business one that I have access to as the corporate admin. And I realized that while he was in Toronto for the last 2 months, he had actually been talking to this local investor here in town about creating a clone of VanHack. So for that past 2 months, I had not only been paying like his salary upfront, like more than his salary actually, but I actually been funding his trip to go to a city to meet with his potential future business partner to clone our company. And about 2 months after we let him go, he launched a company which is copy-paste, Control-C, Control-V, exactly the same thing. Yeah. So I definitely fucked up. And turns out, people don't always pay you back, as you would think. He even said like, oh yeah, you had your chance to sign a contract with me and too late now. And it was definitely a tough moment. But you persevere and you learn things. Definitely the first one is, trust but verify. There's a saying in Russian, doверяй, но проверяй, and which means trust but verify, which I didn't. And so no matter who it is, like make sure there's a contract in place, make sure you do reference checks. I actually did a backwards reference check where after we let him go, I emailed his old boss, and that guy sent me an email saying exactly like almost to the T of what happened with me had happened to him. And if I had sent that one email, it took him 5 minutes to send one email, I would have known that and saved all this grief. Another thing that happened was I didn't mention, but it's really important, that he actually took some of the candidates that we had and started sending them to his business partner. And then we had like a call where it was me, the business partner, and him. And like thankfully, one of our awesome team members like warned me in advance, you're going into a trap. Like this guy's a shark, a wolf. Like be careful. And they started talking about like doing a merger acquisition, try to get more information from me. And then thankfully by that time I'd wised up. Yeah. And then the last thing I'll kind of leave you guys on is definitely a positive note after a lot of hardship. Things are still going strong with VanHack. Like we're honestly doing better. Like we had our best month ever last month, and things are going forward. And it is a little bit like flattering if you look back, like someone actually copy you. It's a kind of a compliment. But really the most important thing is that no one is you, and that is your superpower. I saw this quote, actually one of our customers a couple of weeks ago, and it really resonated with me, and I wanted to leave you guys with this, is that no matter what happens, no matter, it's a crazy world out there. People like, Snapchat, Instagram, all those different things, Lyft, Uber, there's competition everywhere. And as long as you kind of keep your eye on the customer and make sure that you're doing a good job for them, good things will happen. And, certainly like, don't let all these kind of things, get in your way. And at the same time, get contracts, do reference checks. As an HR tech founder, you think I would know. But yeah, I hope that opens your eyes that not everyone is who they appear, and that you guys learned a little bit. Thank you.
Ilya, thank you so much for sharing that story. I really wanted to have you share this with the community. I know it's not an easy story to tell, but I think it's really valuable for everyone to hear. One thing that I'll say, like obviously the circumstances that this happened under, that somebody stole your company is so shitty, but I think this happens like all the time. There's no company that's completely unique. People say like Nike wouldn't exist without Adidas. Like any competition that you have, you should be using it as fuel to like push yourself forward and to always be innovating within your company, to always be doing something fresh. So I really hope that everybody who has potentially been in a similar situation kind of really takes that lesson away, that, like Ilya said, there's no one who is you, and you just have to keep innovating and doing your thing. So let's open it up to some Q&A for Ilya. Okay.
Great presentation. Thank you, Ilya. That was awesome. I think your last quote there brings up an interesting question that I get a lot when people ask you, and you probably get it too. Someone has an idea, and they tell you, look, I want to tell you my idea, but I can't tell you too much, right? There's a balance of someone thinking their idea is going to be stolen versus the idea is just in their head and there's no validation around it. So what do you recommend to people that may have an idea, and what's that balance of giving too much or too little information?
Yeah, definitely. So I think like telling people your idea is encouraged. You should tell them like high level what the idea is. I think where I went wrong was I actually I give like the whole execution of the idea and how we executed, which is too far on the spectrum, obviously now, like intimate details of all the little things. Whereas like, yeah, I have this great idea to create an app that, Uber for pizza, whatever. Like that's a very high level idea. It doesn't talk about all the different details in it. So you can tell people their idea, get their first reaction, see if you're on the right track. Ideas aren't really worth much, but like a blueprint and plan of how to execute an idea, that's definitely way too much.
Cool. Thank you.
My name is Steven. Thank you. Were the decisions, were the fuck-ups entirely yours, or you pointed to your
it was
partner.
all me. No, it was all me. If it wasn't for my co-founder, it would be way more fucked up.
What did those conversations look like, and how did you maintain team cohesion?
Yeah. So I'm actually really fortunate that my co-founder is also my wife and like my life partner. So there's like an extra level of trust, and we can have that openness, and like she can tell me things that no one else can, and I can do the same. And so like, yeah, having that blunt honesty and candor, which is hard to build with any person, I think was an advantage. But yeah, like any business relationship or personal relationship, like ups and downs and fights and challenges. But I think like at the end of the day, we still knew like VanHack is a good idea. We should still keep working on this. We shouldn't, this shouldn't get in our way. We should just use this for fuel, which I guess that's what we've been doing.
Thank you.
Hi, Ilya. Thank you for sharing your story. I know you mentioned you didn't have an NDA or contract with this person, but have you tried to pursue him legally? And the second part is, has the other person that this has happened to, that he like stole, I guess, money from, have you guys tried to go after him and warn other people, like with a lot of cases, as a lot of people see with like cases like Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos, like just to prevent that, put a stop to that kind of shit happening?
Yeah, so I purposely like am keeping it anonymous. I've definitely thought a lot about like writing a blog post or like tweeting and being like, "Yo, look at this exact person," and like even like running Google Ads. I've thought about it, and then you know what? Keep it classy. I don't want to be that guy to like just even put all my energy and focus into that. Like it's cool to come here, like have some drinks and talk about it, and kind of let it be. But yeah, in terms of like legal action, actually to make it even worse, he was living in Romania at the time, and so there was like no way for me to like go after him because he's not in the country. He's Canadian citizen, but was living in Europe, and just there's no way I can do that. I tried. I called some debt collector agencies, but they needed like a bunch of information. I didn't have a contract, so I didn't have his. Yeah. Anyway.
Really quick one. You said you spoke 3.5 languages. What's the half language?
Spanish.
Okay.
I speak Portuñol for Portuguese and Spanish.
Cool.
Yeah, like Spanish-ish. I think some on that side.
Actually, that was for me. I'm too short, so I asked somebody else to do it.
No such thing.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is, like, you mentioned that you moved back to Vancouver from Brazil and that you had this whole transition of like going to creating this company. So my question is, like, how did you go from like going back from Brazil and like having to crash on other people's couches to like having this company born? Like, what was this like whole inspiration?
Honestly, it was like, I don't know, people talk about finding product market fit as like a tech term. I'm sure some of you have heard that. And they say it's like there's two stages in a company. This guy, Mark Andreessen, created Netscape. Anyway, he talks about how like there's companies, two types of companies, pre-product market fit and post-product market fit. And I think with us, just through like all the back and like lucky happenstances, I guess, that we went through, I found product market fit without knowing it, and kind of just people chased me. Like I created this awful website using a great company called Unbounce, one of our customers now. So it was really ugly though and poorly written. Anyway, but people would share it with their friends, and I actually was working on another idea, which is like this doesn't matter. Anyway, I was working on another idea. Sorry, Marsha told me not to go on tangents. Sorry, Marsha. Yeah. And I really thought this other idea was gonna be like the winner. Like I really liked it. And then VanHack just wouldn't let me go. Like people would email me being like, "Yo, I found this," in Portuguese, everything was focused on Brazil at the time. Like I found this link, my friend shared it to me, like I wanna know more. And even though I even tried to ignore them or like was focused on another product, like they would just kind of chase me. And that's like lucky, I guess, but also like a lot of work and being in the right place in the right time, and it just happened that way. So that's like a simple version. We can talk more offline, but yeah, it was like finding a pain that people had and solving their pain rather than like a nice kind of cool idea. You're actually finding a pain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think there was one in the back as well.
I can probably share. I'm good. I'm wondering about like, so when you knew that you were being copied, how did you rebrand and pivot?
We didn't. We just kept going better.
So you didn't change your process at all?
No, we evolve and change all the time. As a startup, things change. We had, I think, like 15 people at the time, and now we have 35, and like we're growing. And we had contracts for everyone on the team. We have an HR person who's very good. I think the last week we were talking about, not liking to do accounting. I'm probably maybe like similar in terms of not doing admin, but we have someone who's really good at that. But the most important thing for us is like we're just going to be more successful. So let's just get more hires, and it's like kind of like with the marketplace again, startup dynamics. Like it's usually winner takes all or winner takes most. So we want to be the largest international tech recruiting company in the world, and in order to do that, we need to have the most customers and the most candidates to make the most matches. And if we do that, then we'll have liquidity, and people will come to us versus the other people. Felipe.
So we'll do 2 more questions.
Sorry.
Hey, Ilya. Thanks so much for sharing this. So I guess you certainly deal with people's lives in a very deep way. So how do you make sure your business address all their worries and concerns when moving to another country? Do you take care of all of them, or do you Like have partners helping you doing this? How does it work?
Yeah, we have a relocation coordinator whose job it is to make sure that people are settling well before having a call with them, after checking in for the first 3 months, and then 6 months later. We also have partnerships with people for housing and like banking and settlement agencies. But it's, yeah, it definitely feel like it's 3 most stressful things in the world, or in people's lives: divorce, death, and family, and moving, especially moving to new countries. So we try and be there to like support them through that. We also have communities of like, we call them van hackers. After they relocate, they can meet friends or people who went through the same experience that are also on our platform in different cities. We just had a meetup last night for the people in Toronto. So yeah, we really work hard to create that community of people and give them support through the process. But definitely, this is something that's much better now than it was like a year or even 2 years ago. Yeah.
And I think I saw one more question in the back somewhere at some point. Okay, perfect. We can just
Thanks,
leave
everybody.
it there. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ilya.